Hello, and welcome to another video. So in today's video, I am gonna go over with you the paper that they gave me in reception. I just filmed the video answering a question from one of you, so I do want to put in this video that if you do have a question and I can go a bit more in depth, more so than I can in the comments, I'm gonna answer it in a short video like that one. But without further ado, let's get into it. Once you get to reception, at some point, they are going to give you a piece of paper that looks just like this, okay? And this is a packet. We're gonna take some time and go through this packet. We're not gonna do it all in this video because I don't want it to be too long. The paper is gonna look like this. You're not gonna have any of these little boxes checked or anything like this. They're gonna give it to you. Up here, they require you to put your line number, and I do wanna mention your line number is how reception identifies you, okay? They don't necessarily call you by your last name and stuff like that, your line number. So you have to remember the line number. When you move to the actual basic training, when you start your basic training, they gave us jerseys at Fort Sill, and then they'll kind of identify you for that first, let's say 2 weeks by your jersey number, and then we move on to treating you more like a human and then calling you by your last name, okay? But still, so I wanted to mention that. But like I said, you'll be given a paper that looks just like this. It's the processing checklist. So a lot of people are confused about what actually happens in reception. Why do I have to be there for a week? Why does it take so long? Well, it takes so long because you have to get through all of these things. And remember that it's not just you. There are a lot of people. All of the people who are going to be in your battery are going to be doing this process at the same time as you. So it does take a little while. So the first thing they gave you, I'm just going to fold this down. The first thing that I gave that's on this list is the Easy Pay card. Here's the Easy Pay card. They're going to give that to you first thing because you're going to need it to go to the PX. PX will only go once. I mentioned to you guys, I actually went 3 times, but it's mandatory that they take you at least 1 time. And this just has an expire, right? Medical OST, the blood draw, this has a signature, and the person who drew my blood put the signature on it. It's a blood draw. They took a lot of vials of blood, but they're gonna do this. You have to do your blood draw before you do your shots. So that they can determine what shots you need and things of that nature. Finance, this is where they set up your GI Bill, your health insurance, not health insurance, your insurance, life insurance and things like that. That happens in finance. Honestly, that was one of the longest lines. It took the longest to get an appointment in there. And when I say appointment, it just means there's enough space in the waiting room for you to sit in there. So I think I got it done on day 3. The barbershop, males will get haircuts and females will have neat hair before in processing and unit photos. So I'll talk about unit photos here in a second, but barbershop is one of the things that the males require. The males are required to get. So if you came there and your hair was big and curly like mine, they were gonna buzz it off. I saw a lot of guys come in full head of hair. Why would you do that? Why wouldn't you get yourself used to the way you're about to look for the next 10 weeks? But no, they're gonna make sure that you get a haircut in reception. Excuse me. But I will say, by the time we left for basic training, a lot of the guys' hair was starting to grow back already. It was crazy to see the hair grows back so fast. The next thing is ID cards. It says even if you have a military ID, you must in process with this station to get checked and verified. So in here, we just took our ID card photos. They also made the paper, they got the paper ready if you have family members for the ID cards. ID and Deers was in the same room, but you had to come back to do it at a different time. So I didn't get the Deers stamp literally until later. If you already, if you weren't married and you don't have kids, when you went to get your ID stamp, see if you can see that there, they also gave you the Deers stamp. So, your checklist was more complete because you didn't need to go through that process. The next thing was CIIP, and that is where we were issued our boots and everything that they're going to issue you for the Army. You already get your PT uniform, so your OCPs, your boots, your running shoes, all that kind of stuff, your beret, they issue you all those things there, and you have to do the CIIP before you do the photos because you're going to be in that uniform they're not going to have you taking your unit photos in your PT uniform, okay? And then the next thing right here is the UP stamp, and that's the unit photos, can be completed anytime after uniform issue and haircut. So those are the two mandatory things for the unit photos. Audiology, okay? Audiology was two-part. First was the hearing briefing. So you had to go to the hearing briefing. If you missed the hearing briefing, it was very possible that you would be recycled until the next people came to be sent off the basic training, because that was something that you had to do. So if you had an issue with your hearing, they had to retest you, they wanted to do some other things, and it made you miss that first portion, you weren't going to be able to do the second portion. Or let's say you did your first portion and then you failed the second portion for whatever reason, you might be held there so that they can figure out what's wrong, why you're not hearing, and you might even be chaptered out. I did witness a young lady get chaptered out because she had a hole in her eardrum. I do want to say though that I had a battle buddy who is at AIT now. She had a hole in her eardrum. She knew it beforehand. She got the surgery, she got it patched up, and she didn't have any issues, okay? The other young lady who tried to she knew she had a hole in her eardrum, she thought she was gonna be able to get through and skate through, she ended up getting chaptered out. So I just want to put that in there. So yeah, the briefing was where we got also your earplugs that you will take to the range with you. I don't know where mine, I do know where mine are, but I'm not gonna get it. It's the earplugs. They're good earplugs that you can take to the range with you, that you're going to take to the range with you. Most of the time at the range, they did have the little ones that you get dispose of. But if they don't, you don't want to be out there without earplugs in. You don't want to lose your hearing that early on, girl. You don't want to do that. So the next part was they actually sit us in booths, kind of like you did at MEPS for your MEPS physical, except this hearing test was more in depth. And also it kind of verified that MEPS said, if MEPS said you could hear, they want to make sure, because sometimes MEPS will drop the ball, okay? So they don't want the ball dropped and then later on they have to pay for your hearing aid when you was already deaf. You know what I mean? Or you already had hearing loss, I'm gonna say that. So they test you again. The next check is dental. Well, the dental, it's not like you wanna get a teeth cleaning. You can get a teeth cleaning, or if you have a cavity or something like that. Once you get to basic training, I did witness a young man get his wisdom tooth pulled. He had to sit in the sick bay for 3 days. But if you really have a problem, he was in pain, okay, they can fix that once you get to basic training, because like I said, this is your new home. They realize stuff comes up. It's like going to a doctor when you're at home. But this dental one, they just take x-rays. So they're just going to take a picture of your mouth and see where you are from there. Medical OST, which is shots. You already know how I feel about shots. You're lined up in there. They give you the shots, whatever shots your blood work says that you need. But girl, those shots wore me down. I'm currently still worn down by those shots. And the last thing is DEERS, if you're married, you have children, and that's just basically creating that paperwork so that your family members, they're gonna mail it to your home, wherever your babies are or your loved one, and it's going to allow them to get an ID card as well, okay? And at the bottom, I just want to read this here. At the bottom, it says, do not ask the drill sergeant about going to the PX. They will call you when it's time to go. You will have the option to purchase undergarments, male tan undergarments, female black, tan, white undergarments. No logos authorized. If returning from Lackland Air Base, you must go to the individual agency and in process again. So I didn't go to Lackland. Lackland was where they learned the ESL program. So people who didn't speak English was their second language, they went to this base, and of course, then they came back to Fort Sill, and then they went off to basic training. So there's that. I hope that helps you a little bit to kind of let you know the process. Like I said, that's why it takes so long, because there's a lot of people, all the people who are in your battery are going to be in there. And if there is a discrepancy, if something comes back that maybe you're pregnant or you got a medical concern that will disqualify you at this point, you will be sent to Charlie 95th after you're done out processing, of course, and sometimes it does take a while. So as always, if you have a question, ask a question, and I will see you in the next video.